How to Lose Your Mother, a Daughter's Memoir. This is the author, Molly Jong-Fast. To my mother, who created me and I love more than anything, and my husband, who saved me from myself. Celebrity is a mask that eats into the face. John Updike. I'd like to thank my terrible childhood and the Academy in that order. Robert Downey Jr. I should note that the only advantage for a child in having an alcoholic parent is that you acquire, prematurely, quite a bit of valuable data. Gore Vidal. Prologue. I am the only child of a once famous woman. How famous she was in her heyday, I would argue, is actually kind of irrelevant. Fame, like alcoholism, rings a bell in you that can never be unrung. My mother was famous, and it changed the makeup of her cells, like a smoker who gets lung cancer, or an addict who gets so hooked on heroin that she is never freed and has to go on methadone forever and ever, even after she's forgotten what the high of heroin was. To say my mother and I are close doesn't really express the full magnitude of the relationship. We are painfully, inexorably, chronically close, the way magnets are. Sometimes when I lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, I'm not even sure I exist without her. She created me, and I enabled her. But there is a paradox at the heart of our relationship. As close as we are, there has always been between us an unbridgeable distance. My relationship with her has always been wildly conflicted. I know that she loved me, but I also know that she never really seemed particularly interested in me. She always told me she wanted me, desperately wanted me, but I spent most of my school breaks in a trailer park in Tampa with my nanny. And as much as I love my mother, I've often found myself regarding her with feelings that are somewhat closer to the opposite of love. My relationship with her is split right down the middle. I admire her, but I pity her. I revere her, no, I worship her, but I am mortified by her. I'd always thought that there would be a time when I would finally be able to reconcile all these insane, contradictory feelings. But not long ago, my mother started disappearing, began dissolving into the whiteness of the background, like a line on a shaken Etch-a-Sketch. Now I have to write an obnoxious paragraph where I brag about who my mother is or was. My mother is the writer Erica Jong. She is a novelist, essayist, and poet. She has published 27 books, the most famous of which is her autobiographical novel, Fear of Flying. It came out in 1973, 5 years before I was born, and is considered, in some corners at least, a landmark of feminist literature. Its candid depiction of women's sexual desires was extremely shocking at the time. It has sold over 20 million copies. And John Updike compared it to The Catcher in the Rye and Portnoy's Complaint. She created terms that are still part of our language. Fear of Flying made her very famous for a writer. She was a guest on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. She was on the cover of Newsweek. Gore Vidal and Henry Miller were friends. I'm not here to brag about my mother's friendships with dead writers, but a lot of younger people have no idea who she is. My mother coined an expression for casual sex, the zipless fuck. Now think about being the offspring of the person who wrote that sentence and pour one out for me. I grew up with her everywhere, on television, in the crossword puzzle, in the newspaper. Mom was a kind of second-wave feminist, a white feminist, and an highly educated, wildly affluent, Jewish, and somewhat out-of-touch everywoman. But she wasn't an actual everywoman, of course. She was too famous for that. Too famous and too special. She was
Sample complete. Ready to continue?